Hi, Aaron. Good. I think you're muted.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah.
Great. Nice to see you again.
Yeah, nice to see you again. And kind of an auspicious day, in fact. So getting to meet Dawn, who got her computer yesterday and got oriented. So yesterday was her first day at the office.
Oh, that's a fun day, isn't it?
Yeah. Yeah. We have a lot of protocols and checklists, and I've got checklists somewhere here that I still need to go over with her. So yeah, it's all good. We're on our way.
I just have to tell you, I've got to jump off at 10:45 for another meeting, but I'm hoping I can.
Okay. Yeah. In fact,
Majority of this one.
yeah, we'll see how robust our conversation is. There isn't, other than our sort of exercise there, I wouldn't be surprised if we can be finished by 11 today. So,
Can you tell me who was just talking? I see a phone number, but I don't see a name. It's three.
yeah, I don't know who that is either.
That would be me. I called in. It's just a better connection.
Who's
Oh,
me?
okay. Can we count Aaron twice then?
Oh, gotcha.
Sorry.
It's
I'm the 9473 number.
Yeah. Got two folks from Eagle County here. Carly and Mandy, how are you? You're still muted.
Good. Sorry, I had too many tabs.
Yeah.
Thank you for having us. Yes, we're
There we
good.
go. Now it's getting there. Yeah, hi.
Hi. Welcome. Are you both at home or is that an office, Carly? I'm guessing Mandy with the fireplace, you're not at Eagle County. Although you could be.
No, I'm not. I ran. No.
Yeah.
No,
I'm at home because our offices at the old courthouse building in Eagle have been under construction since May. So
Yeah.
we're hopeful that we will be moving in towards the end of this month, but
Wow. We were doing
sad. It's sad being homeless. Yeah.
yeah, we did a major remodel back when I was commissioner, although it's been 12, 13 years now, but so I guess it's time again, huh?
Well, we have never remodeled the second floor. So
yeah.
in the old courthouse, the third and first floors have been done.
Yep.
And ours was still like the Art Deco scene. So it is going to be very nice, but it's just, taking a little bit longer than we thought, of course. So
Yeah, I love that building. Kind of
Yeah.
wild to think that all of county government was in that building for quite a while.
that is amazing to think about. Yeah.
Let me see. It looked like somebody meeting ID is invalid, somebody said here. So let me do this. I don't see, well, Talay is there. Talay, do you mind sending Dawn the calendar invite again? Or Dana, excuse me, not Dawn.
Is it Dana? Our Dana?
Yeah. Yeah. She's looking for it. Let's see. All right, let me check one other thing real quick here. What if others are having the same problem? Well, Joy and Jonathan, thanks for your patience. I'm not sure what's going on with other folks here. Let's see. There's Dana. Let me see. We don't have a chair at the moment. Jonathan, how are things up in Steamboat?
We are starting to get some snow.
Nice.
We're fully staffed and the people are arriving, so things are pretty good.
Yeah. How many days has Steamboat been open so far? Just a week or two, or?
Yeah, we start the Wednesday before Thanksgiving.
Got it. Got it. Some pretty significant base renovations up there. I was up for a little conference this summer, and pretty spectacular space now there.
Yeah, they've done a lot of work over the last 4 or 5 years, and then we've got another couple of big projects coming up in the very near future. So
Nice.
um,
It looked like one of your bus routes loops through above right to the ski area. Is that how that works? Is that like downtown to the base?
yeah, in the summertime, there's not as much activity at the base. So we kind of go through there. In the winter, the base really becomes our hub. And so all the routes go through there.
Got it. Yeah, busy little loop then, huh?
Very, yep. Yep. And just last week we carried our millionth passenger for the year. So
Well,
that was
congratulations.
pretty cool.
Yeah. Well, while we're kind of maybe waiting for Steve Child, our chair, and a couple others, maybe yeah, Aaron's giving a clap for 1 million passengers for the year. That is a big deal. I don't think, generally speaking, that up in the high country, our transit systems get enough credit for how many, the ridership. And I know some folks are like, yeah, you're not doing the 16th Street Mall or whatever, but there's a lot of passengers, a lot of trips. There's significant operations, huh, John?
Yeah, and where we would love to get the credit is in Washington, D.C. for funding.
Mm-hmm.
Because funding is all tied to population, not usage of transit. So that's always been a challenge because, when you get RAFTA involved with all this, I mean, they're second largest transit system in Colorado, largest rural in the nation. And Aaron, you can correct me when I'm lying too much, but I think there's over 50 transit systems in Colorado.
There could be even more. You caught me off guard and I'd have to do a count, but definitely
It would
at
be
least that.
is there anywhere, Aaron, that does sort of a ranking of those? Does CDOT have sort of a ranking by usage and that kind of thing? That ranking isn't the
It's a really
important
good
part.
question.
Yeah, like a
Yeah.
list.
Yeah, not off the top of my head, but I can certainly look into it. I mean, everything is in our system in Cotrans.
Yeah.
So it seems like there would be a report in there somewhere, but I can definitely look into it for you.
Yeah.
Yeah, since I love filling out reports, we get the opportunity, not the requirement, get the opportunity for other people, it's a requirement, that we fill out an annual survey called the National Transit Database, NTD. And so that's a nationwide system that does all transit systems nationwide. So large urban, small urban, and then rural. So they put out a report annually, and Colorado scores very high in those rankings.
Yeah.
I think the last one, of course, it was a little weird with COVID, but I think the last one we were the 15th largest rural transit system in the nation.
Wow. Yeah, that's saying something. I see it looks like Vivian, and I'm just glancing here on the list for where you are, Vivian. So maybe while we're waiting for a chair, and I don't know, Talay, would you resend that meeting invite out to everybody on the list real quick again? Just hit resend on it. Maybe that'll prompt some folks that are on another link or something.
Okay, I'll send now.
Yeah, and then in the meantime, to make some use for this, I'll wait to have Erin do her or Dana do her introduction. So when maybe there's some more people here, but maybe since probably others who will come on already know this, maybe if you don't mind spending a little time, each of you just kind of introducing yourself, what entity you're with, kind of what you do, and your link to transit, RTCC, mobility, whatever your in is for this group. So I don't know, Mandy, if you want to start with that and then go to Carly. We'll do 2 Eagle County people here first.
Sure. My name's Mandy, the Healthy Aging Coordinator with Eagle County in Elgibel.
Yep. So you just cover the Roaring Fork side, is that right?
For me.
Yeah. And what does a Healthy Aging Coordinator do?
So all the older adult programs, we do fitness classes, lunch program, transportation,
Yeah.
activities, programs, all fun stuff for people over the age of 60.
That's great. And you have 1 or 2 counterparts on the Eagle River side.
Eagle County and Pitkin County.
Yeah, but on the Eagle River side, are there people?
Garfield County?
No.
On our side, Eagle River side.
Is there 1 or 2 counterparts to what you do?
2.
2, yeah.
Yeah.
Carly, go ahead.
Carly can talk about the other side.
Sure. Yeah. Carly Reitman, I'm the Healthy Aging Manager for Eagle County. Work closely with Mandy. Mandy really handles all of our Roaring Fork, Eagle County healthy aging work. I primarily coordinate all the programming for the Eagle Senior Center. We have another coordinator, Pat Nolan, who does all of our Minturn and Up Valley work on the Eagle River side. And then we all are dealing with transportation. So Mandy deals with lack of paratransit in the Mid-Valley. We do a lot of medical transportation with our Healthy Aging bus as kind of a gap filler over there. She also works closely with RAFTA as much as she can with trying to work some of that out. And then over here, we contract with Eco Transit to provide our healthy aging transportation. That's primarily to and from our senior center sites. And that is a lovely partnership because we are not transportation experts and they are. So Elgibel is where we have to be transportation experts and we don't love that. So we are constantly trying to work with RAFTA, but that's a bit, everybody's at full capacity. So
on the Eagle River side, your deal with Eco is they own the bus and manage and man the bus or have personnel, a driver for the bus, and then maintain the bus. But you pay for what, just for usage, or basically do you pay for all of that, Carly? How's that work? Is that bus exclusively for you guys pretty much?
It is. So we have a specific contract with Eco to just provide healthy aging transportation. So they have a dedicated driver. So it's an actual healthy aging driver position they've created. She utilizes their buses. They maintain the buses. So we estimate an hourly, how many hours in a year we think we're going to need her times her hourly rate. And that is what we in public health pay Eco to provide that service for us.
Got it. And I know our agency on aging, Vintage, helps out with meals and some other things that you guys do, but do they help out with transit at all? funding wise?
So, yep, so we get grant funding through those Older American Act dollars through Vintage. Mostly that goes towards helping our Elgibel transportation. We do have a driver specific for Elgibel, and we own the bus for that site. So that helps us with the costs associated with that bus. So yes, we are grantees of Vintage for nutrition and transportation.
Got it. I should know that, but thanks for telling me about my own program. Well, let's go to Joy and Northwest Colorado Center for Independence. And you have a little different mission and focus over there, right, Joy? If you want to introduce yourself.
Yeah, I work for a, whew, I wasn't ready.
I can circle around to you if you need a breath.
No, it's fine. Northwest Colorado Center for Independence is a nonprofit, and we do transportation for people with disabilities. We are also moving into helping our consumers get to the grocery store, the post office, things like that. And I have worked for them since 2017.
Yeah. So tell me, when you say you do transportation for disabilities, and then you're starting to do a lot like what I know Carly and Mandy were talking about with their transit agencies, where or the transit part of that, where you see the little bus and the seniors, at the post office or at the grocery store, right? Or getting,
Right.
transported to their congregate meal site. So you are just beginning to do that. Maybe it'd be good, Joy, if you were to talk about what your region or your area is for Dana's.
We cover 5 counties. So it's Rio Blanco, Moffett, Routt, Grand, and Summit counties.
Mm-hmm.
And we get people to doctor's appointments and things. And we've been doing that for a while. But for the last couple of years, we got a grant through Rocky Mountain Health Plans to do a little bit more.
Yeah.
So we're starting to do, local, go to the grocery store, the post office, and things that people, can't really do with like MedRide or, places like that, because they only do medical transport stuff.
Yeah, one thing, Rout's a sort of a new member for COG, and so I've been listening a lot to sort of what they do up there, and it's interesting. They have, at least in Rout, which looks similar to Eagle and Summit in a lot of ways, they have a lot of things that they look at, or this historically have been not government roles, right? So they're not as directly active, it seems like, in some of these senior services or providing them. Is that kind of the case in Rio Blanco, Moffett, and Grand as well?
Yeah.
Yeah. So you are doing effectively what Carly and Mandy's organizations are doing, but for those other 5 counties, is that right?
Right.
Yeah. How about Summit? Is that dynamic a little different with Summit? It was your 5th county, I think.
Yeah, it is. They have a lot more opportunity for transportation there. So we don't do as much there, but we do some. It depends, and we go as far as Denver and even the opposite to Grand Junction for medical appointments and things.
Yeah. Can I ask you a self-serving question for organization?
Sure.
You're basically doing NEMT, is that right? non-emergent medical transport, which I was trying to explain to Dana. We used to be involved in with Mountain Ride Center, and I didn't really get into a lot of detail, but the state has taken that over with the contract and whatnot. And how is that going compared to when we were helping out, we're partnering with you guys with that?
We are not doing, I mean, there are more places opening up to give people rides for medical appointments and such. There's Roaring Fork is in one. There's another one, a new one in Grand Junction. And so we are doing more, I think, we're moving kind of away from the medical part, you know, to more of the grocery store, post office type stuff, because there are more places that can do that. We still are about the only place in Northwest Colorado that have the accessible vehicles. So for people with wheelchairs or, you know, that need assistance more than just a ride. So we still do that.
So are these other organizations that are doing NEMT that are popping up? Are they new organizations in getting in that business? Yeah.
MedRide has been around for a little while, but like Roaring Fork is new. They just started within the last year. And then the Grand Junction, and I can't remember the name of the company, but they are very new and are trying to, they said they do transportation anywhere in Colorado. So, so that's good for them. And we love the help because there are so many people that need transportation that can't get it. So
yeah. Joy, or maybe Mandy, you know the answer to this. Dana was asking in the chat, what's the name of the organization that does that in Roaring Fork? Do you happen to know?
it's Roaring Fork Transportation is what it's called.
Oh, yeah. Well, that's straightforward. How about that? And they also are an NPO, nonprofit?
I believe so, yes.
Yeah. Well, thank you, Joy. I know you weren't expecting to be called on, so thanks for jumping up in there.
No
and
problem.
Vivian, if you haven't felt the hot seat moving to you, you're next. If you're there, and I'm double checking on our list here, Vivian P, that may be somebody else. Tolay?
Yes.
No Steve Child. No, do you have any idea what's going on? If there people are on trying to get onto a different call, or
Well, Steve sent me an email at 10:08 saying that he was trying to log on but couldn't get on. So I've sent him the correct link twice. I don't know if they're using Aaron's old link, but that was from last year. So I don't know what they're trying to log into.
Okay. Thank you for checking into that. Well, Dana, you can tell one thing we got to work on right off the bat is maybe erasing some old calendar invites and connections and refreshing all that. So apologies for the technical difficulties.
Could we see if he could just call in with the phone number?
Yeah, that's a great idea.
Sometimes that's a workaround.
I suggested that, but I haven't heard back.
Let me just call him. We'll maybe try that the old-fashioned way. If I have it. Oh, there we go. Looks like. Oh, hey, I was calling for Steve Child. Is he there? I'm with North.
Board of County Commissioners, but you would need to call his cell phone.
Oh, okay. Shoot. Okay, thank you.
Oh, hold on. I'm gonna dig it up.
It looks like he's on.
All of their cell phone numbers are on there.
It
Okay.
looks like he's on.
Oh, Steve, hey, we were trying to get him on a meeting and he just joined the meeting, so thank you, sorry.
Oh, perfect. Okay.
Yep, bye. Steve, welcome. Commissioner Child, sorry about the technical difficulties. Can you hear us?
John, he sent me an email saying that he found a link in the agenda that didn't work. He was not going off of the actual calendar invite that I sent several times. So we'll make sure that gets updated too on future agendas.
Yeah. So Tracy, it's Tracy Fletcher, I assume, with Timberline Adult Day. Is that right?
Correct. Hi, good morning.
Hi, we've got Dana, who's our new mobility manager. But before introducing her, we were trying to get a few more people on the line. So we were just having everybody kind of explain a little bit about their organization and what they do, if you don't mind doing that next, Tracy.
Sure, absolutely. Hi, I'm Tracy. I am the executive director at Timberline Adult Day Services. We are respite care based in Frisco for adults 18 and older with developmental and physical disabilities. We have folks up to in their 90s that attend with us. We are open Monday through Friday, 8:30 to 4:30, and again, provide respite care for families, for caregivers, but also provide pretty dynamic, fun programming for the participants that are coming. We do a lot, whether we're going skiing or bowling or to museums or arts, you name it. So we definitely try and do more than just hang out in our building at the senior center. So also, we are a nonprofit. We serve our entire region. If you were to kind of draw a map in our mountain region, we are the only respite program. So we have folks from Lake, Park, Grand County. We also have second homeowners and tourists that will come and utilize our services. So, so yeah, a lot, a variety and a lot of folks that come to us and with a variety of health things going on in their lives. So
are you co-based in the senior center at yeah, that's what that is your facility, is the Summit County Senior Facility.
Correct. If you were looking at the senior center, we're to the far right. There's a porch there. Yeah. So we are, and we aren't part of the senior center. They are gracious to host us in their facility. So
yeah. So you do respite care. Maybe you could say a word about respite care, but did I hear you say you do adult daycare too, or no?
Well, I guess it is adult daycare, if you will.
Okay.
And I know some of that is changing language and whatnot. But we definitely, we have that adult day care respite really is providing caregivers who might be caring for somebody 24/7 the opportunity to continue working, to take care of things in, shopping, basics, and give them a break, if you will, during the day through Friday. Respite, exactly. Occasionally we'll do an evening thing or a weekend because, as we see any of us that have cared for loved ones or raised children or anything, you go home and you still have life continuing on the evenings and weekends. And so we try and provide occasional evening or weekend opportunities for folks to bring their family member to us as well.
Yeah, well, that's fantastic. And your transportation needs with that, do you have folks that need not only that, but help getting to your center and from your center back to where they're being cared for or whatnot?
The biggest barrier that we're seeing, so mountain mobility in Summit County is obviously a huge asset to the folks here. But the barriers that we're seeing are the folks that live in Kremling, Fairplay, Leadville, because there are no day programs for folks. Transportation's a barrier. Mountain mobility cannot go to those communities because it's one-to-one stopping, and per those dollars with federal dollars and highway transportation, they can't do that. So we are looking at how we can break down those barriers a little bit for folks. I know Medicaid, if they have it, if somebody has a waiver, they can write into a waiver that Medicaid could provide transportation twice a week.
Mhm.
But again, we're talking rural, and that can be a challenge all in itself to find that provider.
Yeah.
And so
Is your barrier, just insurance, probably all these things, but is your barrier, you mentioned the money, is it do you have like you have your own van or whatnot, you could pick these people up, is that right?
we possibly could.
Or would you rather have money to have a center in those places where you would bring a staff or two? Like, which are you? Yeah.
Probably the transportation would be easier, to be honest. As a lot of, I've been in Leadville 20 years, 21 years.
Wow.
Transportation is always tricky, but as we see, 35-40% people commute here, we know, those folks are, and same with Kremling and same with Park County. So I think Summit makes sense as a central location versus trying to do smaller populations, and find that staffing, because oftentimes you need at least 2 staff per different reasons, and possibly Medicaid and needs of the clients and all that stuff. So I think transportation and having that in place and having the ability to pick folks up would be better than trying to have separate facilities.
Yeah. Well, thank you. Steve, are you with us? He looks like he's with us. Vivian, you look like you're connecting to audio there. Looks like we have 2 Vivians. Vivian's here twice. Hey, Vivian, can you hear us? We can't hear you yet.
Vivian put something in the chat earlier that she is with Summit Stage in Frisco, and she's on a VPN without video. So
Okay. Well, we'd love to have her say a little bit about Summit Stage if she wants to. And let's see. So Jonathan, you talked a little bit. I don't know if we're kind of focused on mobility, kind of based on who's here, right? And senior specifically, what kind of dovetailing do you do up in Steamboat with your, you got a big transit. We're talking about kind of, if you will, like little organizations doing some heavy lifting, but you're a big organization. How do you relate to what they're doing?
Yeah, so we're Steamboat Springs Transit, and so we provide transit services within the city limits of Steamboat Springs. Fixed route. All of our buses are wheelchair lift equipped or ramp equipped. Also have things for visually impaired people who have challenges with hearing, all that kind of stuff. We've got that all set up on the buses. We also run a microtransit system through the downtown area that is also set up to be fully ADA compliant, lift equipped vehicles. Then we have what we call the access.
Wait there. What does microtransit mean? Probably I'm the only person on the call who doesn't know.
Sure. Microtransit is also known as first and last mile transit. So what we do is, for example, we run down the main street of downtown Steamboat. And for those folks that live in kind of the downtown area, but not on the main street, we then for certain hours provide something that's very similar to Uber or Lyft, but it's free for the user. And within a defined area, they go on an app, they enter their information, and then a vehicle will show up to pick them up and take them where they're going. And the app is set up so that it's kind of a one-time that you have to enter your information, and then it's extremely user-friendly for additional trips. So it's been a good program for us in that we don't have to run our full-size heavy-duty transit buses into the neighborhoods, but still are able to provide that service. That service services our schools, our college, some of the local amenities that we have, and then a lot of the residential neighborhoods. So we've got that service. And then we've got the Access the Boat paratransit service, which is meets basically the paratransit guidelines for fixed route service in the Steamboat area. Was growing in popularity quite a bit before COVID. A lot of our clients are still not using kind of public transportation yet, but we're starting to see that really grow back as the clientele is coming back out, and it's great to see. It's great to see familiar faces that we haven't seen for a while. And then we provide regional transportation between Steamboat and Craig and the communities in between. And those regional buses are also fully ADA compliant with wheelchair lifts and systems set up.
So, some people might not know this. Craig, for us, seems like way out in the middle of nowhere, as does kind of Steamboat, but they're really only 40 miles apart, which is less than a lot of us commute around here, like from Leadville to Summit, or, Dana's in Silt. If she's going to Aspen, that's a longer trip. How many times a day do you do that? It's just a morning run and then an evening run?
Currently, we have 4 trips in each direction. That's winter service, 2 trips in the summer. And we are in the middle, actually nearing the end of a program to look into creating a regional transportation authority for Northwest Colorado, for basically the Yampa Valley. And part of that is really geared around providing additional options for regional transportation, not just out to Craig, but out to our other communities that are in the middle of nowhere. So South Route, North Route, even looking at possibilities down to Rio Blanco, incorporating Bustang Outrider. We currently operate or have an operation from Craig to Denver, looking at getting service from Steamboat through Craig down to Grand Junction. A lot of that would be medical trips. We have a huge need for that. Have tried to set up bus stops and transfer locations to help serve Grand and Jackson County as well, with the current Bustang Outrider, and that's of course the CDOT program. But we work real closely with that provider. So
yeah,
trying to
fantastic. You may get a train here soon. It sounds like to Denver. We'll see how that goes. They're talking about it.
Yeah. No, that's there's discussion, and right now it's really in the exploratory phase for that.
Yeah. Commissioner Child, can you hear us? And can we hear you? Why don't you try to speak here first? You're muted at the moment. Oh, did he just turn himself? He just disconnected himself. I love it. Class.
Can you?
Oh, there you are. Okay, there you are, Steve.
Yeah.
Commissioner Child.
So I am unmuted. Maybe that's the last of my technical problems today.
No. You're wonderful. We're so glad to have you. And what we've been doing is kind of slow walking since, and we haven't introduced Dana yet, but everyone has introduced themselves and what they do, and to her, I think, which has kind of been nice not to have an overwhelming number of people and to start with. So maybe you'd introduce yourself. Then I'll say first, one of the things I love about your work, besides your service as a commissioner, is you're a champion of transit, not just in words, but you actually travel on transit a lot.
Yeah, so I'm a Pickens County commissioner, And I've served for 11 years. I have one more year and then I will be term limited. So I will not be able to serve on the RTCC in a year's time. I hope to still be serving on the vintage board just as a member of the Pickens County Senior Center at that time. So I ride the bus all over the place. So the RAFTA bus here in the Roaring Fork Valley. I ride Mustang frequently, and I've actually gone to a meeting in Colorado Springs before where I drove 10 miles from my house, got on a RAFTA bus, went down, I caught the Mustang bus and went to Denver, took the Mustang to Colorado Springs, and then I got on a city bus there and went to the CCI meeting when they were still being held in Colorado Springs. Walked a few blocks. So I drove 10 miles and I walked a few blocks and I was at a meeting in Colorado Springs.
That's
It was
great.
it was pretty seamless. It was really fun doing that. In Pickens
Carly
County,
gave you a shout out for being a champion for seniors, which I neglected too. Sorry to interrupt you, Steve.
yeah. So Dana, I served on the SAPCA committee, Strategic Action Planning Group on Aging, for its entire existence, which was about 7+ years before it was then merged by the state legislature into the new Colorado Commission on Aging, which I don't serve on that, but our senior director, Chad Federovich, serves as the chairman of that board. I've been, working on senior issues virtually the whole time I've been commissioner. I am 75 years old myself, and I'm finally feeling old. I think the catching COVID for 11 months and whatnot took a lot out of me, and I have never fully recovered from that. So I'm feeling my age finally after all these years. In Pickens County, we have the RAFTA bus they have a senior van that they drive around and they can pick up people at their houses and get them to medical appointments or the grocery store or the senior center, or various things like that.
Is that funded by Pickens County, Steve?
It's not for the entirety of Pickens County. It just goes down a few miles below Aspen. So it's more Aspen centric.
The money is what I'm asking about. Is it funded by?
I'm not sure if the senior, I don't know if RAFTA just funds it out of their tax money they get. I'm not aware that the senior services has to put any money into it.
Okay.
I'm gonna chime in real quick there, because we've always had this discussion. I think back in the day, I don't know when, but the Pickens County, they voted a tax to go towards RAFTA, and they would pay for that senior bus. So it's somehow RAFTA's paying for it, but it's also coming from taxpayers.
Yeah, it is tax money paying for it.
Yeah, I think RAFTA told us it was like grandfathered in Pickens County because you guys were already doing it. So when RAFTA was formed, that money was just going to them, and everything you were currently doing, they agreed to keep doing. So it's just also a nice timing piece, I believe.
So I'm pretty sure Dana's aware of the geography of Highway 82 being in Pickens County to start and then crossing Eagle County for what, 5 or 7 miles or something like that, and then in Garfield. But because she lives in Garfield County, you're jumping on that, Mandy and Carly? Is that because does that RAFTA service go to Basalt or not? Does it go into Eagle County? Does it bring people to Eagle County? All right.
No, it doesn't. It doesn't.
Okay.
It doesn't even serve us down as far as where I live. It goes to it'll go to Aspen Village, mobile home park, but that's as far down the valley as they go. So that's maybe maybe 10 miles from Aspen.
So is that a gap I'm hearing somebody would like to fill? Yeah.
Yeah, there's a large part of the county that's unserved. And a lot of our seniors actually go to the Eagle County lunches and whatnot. I think they probably get on a RAFTA bus and go down there, the ones who do that, or drive their own car there.
Yeah. Well, Dana, there's one conversation to have with RAFTA. we brought you a grant or some money, would you extend service with that? I see a couple smiles from Eagle County on that. I think I've tried Vivian a couple times. One more time. Vivian, do you want to say anything, introduce yourself, or you're I know you're not a great connection, but you stuck with us. So Dana, maybe this is a good time. Then I can hand off, Steve, back to you if you want, or I can just keep kind of facilitating. We're really in this meeting wanting to, Dana just started yesterday. We issued a computer to her and, a couple other things and gave her a whirlwind of information. And so we're really excited for her to start. But we're really just still, she's got a little time here to kind of understand what the lay of the land is as a mobility manager. So I think what you guys are doing right now is I think very helpful. But Dana, do you want to jump in now? Thank you for your patience.
I'm really happy to be here. I'm Dana Wood. I'm the new mobility manager. And it's good to reconnect with some folks that I've worked with.
It's really hard to hear. Is that just me?
It is. Dana, you may want to video off to see if we can hear you better with a connection, maybe. Just for the
Is that better?
not much.
Garbly.
Oh. Let me try to do
Dana, even though they gave you a computer, this would be a great time to ask for an even better computer.
Well,
I believe she said she's at this morning.
we do pay for some internet connections and for a few of our employees for this very reason. So, or upgraded internet. So maybe that's the next conversation. Dana,
Can you guys hear me now?
oh my gosh, that's much better. Yeah.
Okay, great. I am at the car dealership right now getting some work done on my car, so apologize for any background noise. But I'm really excited to be here and to connect with folks that I've worked with in the past, with Mandy and Carly. I'm the new mobility manager and I live in Silt. I've lived in Garfield County, on and off since 2011. And I come from a food access, public health background. So I've worked a lot in the spaces of food access and have done some transportation projects and had lots of partnerships with folks in this room, which is really great. I am a planning and zoning commissioner for the town of Silt, and I'm also a board member for Highwater Farm, which is an educational nonprofit farm here in Silt. So I'm really excited to be here and to learn from all of you. I'll probably be reaching out to everybody to schedule some one-on-ones and just start to get to know you and learn more about how we can revamp this group and kind of prioritize some things and how I can best support your work.
That's great. Thank you. Any questions for Dana? I was going to spend a little time. I don't know if any of you took the time or saw the job. I know Steve did because we reviewed it together, but she's got a little different job description than prior mobility managers, and a little broader scope. And her sort of urgent first focus is with the Intermountain Transportation Planning Region, the IMTPR, which I think just about every one of you right now is in. They may split the TPRs. That's another story. But so that is the region's funding for transit and for transportation, which also includes roads. So it's stretching the mobility part a little bit. But they have not had an administrative person at all with that group of folks that meet. So one of her first roles is to help them restructure, get organized, with agendas online and minutes and meeting materials, and bylaws haven't been updated in a long time. Their governance structure needs. Sorry, I've got a bug. It's the wintertime. You're not supposed to have those. Just generally restructuring them, and once that sort of that heavy lift is really in place, I think she'll spread her time out maybe more evenly across the sectors that she has. What I was kind of explaining to her is there's this TPR thing, And Jonathan, I'm sure you and Vivian at Summit Stage, you guys get, you go to IMTPR, what somebody does for you to go lobby for funding. Is that correct?
Yeah, we're actually part of the
You're
Northwest
Northwest.
TPR.
Yeah.
And for what it's worth, Dana, if there's anything that you need, Ginger Scott with the City of Steamboat Springs does the same thing for Northwest, and I think has been pretty good at rounding the cats up, and we kind of go in the same direction. So yeah, we're Northwest, and yeah, we do exactly what you're saying.
Yeah. Thanks, Jonathan. By the way, I was going to do this, but if you wanted to do the honor of an email introduction between Dana and Ginger Scott, Dana already has been sort of prompted on Ginger being her colleague up north.
Absolutely. We
Yeah.
can do that.
That'd be
Thank
great.
you, Jonathan. I appreciate that.
Yeah. So that is sort of her major big push. And I think that'll have a curve of work that will sort of level out once that sort of is all established. I don't know that the TPR, hopefully at some point is more like 30% of her time. I think it's gonna be like 70% of her time for 6 months or so, is my, just generally speaking, guess. And then maybe you guys can talk about what, because I sort of think of 3 buckets with that. There's the sort of TPR bucket, which is new. There's the transit bucket, which, we only have a couple of transit representatives on the call. I know sort of historically, well, our funding is, our match funds come from the transit agencies. Thank you. But then the grant is a mobility grant, right? And mobility is sort of a third thing. They're all interrelated, of course. But trying to sort of explain to Dana or orient her into these, different sectors or buckets. And maybe you guys don't think of yourselves as separate. I'm not sure if I'm artificially creating that or what you think of it, but we thought maybe doing a real quick, and it shouldn't take a long time with the people on the call, sort of a quick SWOT analysis, if you guys still think that would be worthwhile to do here, for even if we just do it for 15 or 20 minutes. Does that sound like a good idea? Okay, I'll take that as a yes. Saying no objections to it. So, and we are taking notes with this. I think the best, maybe we go around the horn and just sort of say, I know you could be exhaustive with this, but if you could say in top 3 in a word or a sentence, what are your top challenges that you're, in terms of transit and RTCC section related, what challenges is your organization facing in terms of like transportation? I think we heard one, right? Mandy and Carly. I don't know if it rises to top 3 of one part of your valley is not connected to, a neighboring. It's really one valley, right? Ring Fork, but it doesn't operate that way necessarily.
Yeah, the other thing I would say over here on the Eagle River side is I feel like we have big gaps in, and again, I'm senior centric, of course, but like we have a lot of our current transportation that we contract is really solely just for our senior center transportation. So we have a lot of trouble with helping people who just no longer drive get from point A to point B. We have a volunteer driver program that's doing some of that. But as far as transit goes, we really don't have any nice, like, even compared to like the Roaring Fork, these kind of hop on, hop off to get even between, Gypsum and Avon would be super helpful. I'm thinking people's doctor's appointments and things. So we don't have a great solution for if someone's like, hey, I just need to get to the grocery store. Is there a bus that can take me? We don't have that. So for us, that's a big one.
Right. So microtransit, if I got that right, is what Jonathan called that. There's other names for it, last mile, right? So what you're saying is in the Eagle River corridor, you're missing, well, you cover seniors relatively well, but somebody who's not a senior, who for whatever reason doesn't drive anymore, who knows, maybe they got a DUI or maybe they're hurt, right? They can't drive themselves. There's no public sector Uber, like John was talking about, if you will, that would come to your doorstep and take you to a grocery. Is that what you're saying?
Right, or even if it's like an easy, so a lot of, and I am speaking specifically seniors, so it's like things outside of our senior center days, there's a gap there. So if someone just needs on a random Wednesday to go to the grocery store in Eagle, other than going on the main fixed routes, which tends to be pretty overwhelming for people. If there was like, hey, this little shuttle bus could pick you up at this specific stop and it runs every 30 minutes or, things like that. There's just nothing like that here.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I would love for in the Elgibel area, the Blue Lake, Elgibel, Willits area, and clear up to Old Town Basalt even. I would love for the RAFTA bus system to stick to the highway with their up and down valley buses. And everything off of that would be covered by some kind of a circulator bus, or it could be an on-demand kind of a thing for people. So someone's in their home in Blue Lake and they don't drive anymore, that they could be picked up there, delivered to City Market, delivered to their doctor's appointment, that sort of a thing, I think would be very useful. And I mean, I would see it for everybody who lives there so they can get out of their cars and just get picked up and delivered to the to the bus stop at the highway or whatever. And I see it as a transportation solution to get people out of their cars.
Yeah.
But it could be more specific for seniors that they don't have to walk down to a corner necessarily. They can just get on the thing right out their front door if they have mobility problems.
Yeah.
And it could be a combination of perhaps RAFTA and senior services putting some funding into that for the seniors. So I envision that for that part of the valley, but the same thing could work for within Carbondale. It could work between Eagle and Gypsum, not with RAFTA, but with their eco transit over there would be a possibility.
Yeah.
So it's really re-envisioning the entire transportation system.
Yeah. Tracy or Joy?
I guess I'll just reiterate kind of that for folks who live in our bedroom communities to Summit County, transportation for them to Summit that aren't able or comfortable to ride on like the Summit stage and whatnot, and figuring out how that could what possibilities are out there. I have reached out to Julie McCluskey and had some conversations with her also, but just trying to figure out, and I've reached out to Lake County commissioners, their town manager also, and are trying to have those conversations of what funding may be there, because again, as being the only program, we're trying to break down those, some of that isolation that happens, whether it's seniors or an 18-year-old that has that needs our services. Just trying to figure out how we can provide that transportation to them.
Yeah. Good.
And in particular, Kremling, Fairplay, and Leadville, I think, are the three communities that make the most sense for us.
So I'm hearing one theme here is this crossing jurisdiction problem, right? So we have our boxes, that are our funding boxes or our governance boxes, and we were just talking about that in the Roaring Fork, right? So something that RAFTA had grandfathered in stops well before the Eagle County border, it sounds like, but the citizens don't necessarily live by those borders, right? They like you said, Tracy, a whole, I think you said 25%. I can't remember what the number is. That sounds about right, of the workforce that travels in every day. And I'm using workforce, that's one term, but you're not necessarily even talking about workforce. You're talking about just people who their main place for groceries or services, right? Or medical is, Summit County is the hub for, Leadville, Park County, a good part of Park County, and then, west of Byers Canyon, as they say up there in Grand County.
Right. Because even like the senior center in Leadville, Rochelle, they can provide transportation, but you have to be 60 and older. So then we've got this huge population that is, not able to have transportation. So they could possibly do that, but again, you'd have to be, I think it's 60 and older for Lake County for the senior center.
Yeah. Joy, do you want to weigh in? Do you have anything to add to this? Challenges? So we'll move on to, just a quick around the horn. Jonathan, did you want to say challenge? I'm sorry, I didn't get to you.
Yeah. Let me just kind of throw out a little bit of historical stuff for the RTCC.
Great.
Way back when we had horse-drawn buses, part of the thing that we were putting this group together for is that there's a ton of amazing things that are being done in this area, but kind of we were all inventing the wheel and reinventing the wheel. And a lot of the focus was on collaboration. And let me just give you a couple of examples. You'd have a bus or a car out of Craig, taking someone to Denver, a car out of Steamboat, and a car out of Jackson County. And they would all meet up in the McDonald's next to the hospital and throw French fries at each other. And is there a way that we could combine that and make one trip? And so a success story would be, for example, we got the Mustang Outrider with CDOT to build a bus stop, a flag stop up at the top of Rabbit Ears, so that people from Jackson County no longer had to go all the way down to Denver, but they could go to the Mustang bus stop, get the people on that, and then utilize that service down there. And some of the battles that we've fought that were not real successful, but still want to fight. For example, a VA van would travel right next to a senior van. And is there any way that we could get Medicaid and the VA to work together? A lot of expansion of things like MedRide, different things like that. So just making people aware, and also for the citizens, that they have no clue what is out there. And so they call up, the RTCC and say, I need this, and they would be pointed to the resources that could help out. Because it seemed like so much energy was going into starting from scratch and moving all the way up. And then other things that were very helpful is, somebody needs to buy a van. Well, who has bought a van? How did that go? Could you give me the documentation? Could you show me how to do that? Could you get me a hold of vendors? And I know we've worked with Joy, for example, on this, that their wheelchair lift isn't working in their van. Well, I've got a full maintenance staff here. I can't fix that, but maybe I can take a quick look at it and say, you need to push this fuse back in and now it operates. Or, yep, you need to go to Denver and get it all fixed up. So, so that was
and a good example of that, is in Eagle County. It has happened, I don't know by plan. It happened a little bit because we had a very aggressive manager in Avon, town manager. But Eagle County and Avon, town of Avon Transit got some federal monies, and they built their transportation center in Avon that, some of the buses are stationed there now for eco, but also town of Avon does all of that maintenance, and they do the maintenance for Beaver Creek Transport. I believe they do some for Vail. I know they do some for Eagle County there. And there's another entity, maybe it's Minturn that I'm missing on there too. But right, an example of, have we talked about how that works, right? So I think that's right in line with a lot of COG stuff is what highlighting a success. And it doesn't have to be something grand, like you said, but buying a van is a great example.
Yeah, just, writing a request for proposal for a van for somebody who hasn't dealt with that can be a huge kind of challenge. But I've found that, in the transportation field, I'm just a huge fan of plagiarism. And, somebody else has written it, just change for me all the Glenwood Springs to Steamboat Springs and submit it. And it saves me a lot of time so that I can, sit back in my office and play backgammon or whatever, you know, with all the spare time that we have.
Right.
So just kind of that sort of thing. And then also pitfalls. So, hey, we tried this and it didn't work because of this. And then I don't have to go out and, you know, go jump into the same pitfall. I can hear what did work, what didn't work, and just trying to make it easier for all of us instead of redoing the same work.
Jonathan, Carly commented, I think she suspects you don't play backgammon, but that you in your spare time read a lot of binders. I don't know what gives her that impression.
Yeah, that's actually AI.
Is it really?
No, they're real binders. I wish
Okay,
it
okay,
was
all
AI.
right. See, you fooled me on that.
Yeah.
As my son when he was young would say, you joked me.
Yes. Yeah. No, those are all RFPs, plans, ideas, and federal guidelines, which if you ever need to go to sleep, just read federal guidelines. It'll put you right to
Well,
sleep.
you took us right to the third one. What are the strengths of RTCC past successes and what's useful about gathering as a group? Maybe we just jump right to that. Anybody else want to chime in on hey, why you joined this call, this group? What have we done? I've kind of given Dana a sense that we have in the past at times been a much more robust group, and that one of her jobs is going to be to kind of rekindle that. So if you have any ideas for that, shoot.
Well, we used to get together in person and we would eat lunch while we were doing it, and that was a big draw for people to go. And I
Yep.
know that's talked about to start doing. I think we'll always do hybrid meetings, but in-person meetings when they work I think they're more productive for the actual meeting time. It might not be productive for our transportation time getting there
Right.
compared to a Zoom call. And Zoom calls don't always work seamlessly, as we found out today.
Right.
Seems to always be at least one or two people who are struggling with the technology.
For sure. Jonathan, you're about to add some more to that.
Yeah, I agree with what Steve was saying, and I think we did kind of ultimately ended up, COVID aside, of doing sort of the winter meetings via Zoom, but the summer meetings in person. And there's really nothing better than just overhearing conversations. And it wasn't necessarily an agenda item, but you would hear that Rafta was doing something or Steve was doing something, and we'd love to do that as well. And it's those kind of impromptu conversations that I think oftentimes were as beneficial as the agenda items.
Yeah. One of my favorite DOLA managers who retired recently, I asked him, why do you go to all these conferences? He said, I don't go because of what they're talking about. I go because of who's there, which I think is what you're talking about, right? Okay, point taken on doing some more in-person meetings and feeding people. Dana, that's in line with a little what we talked about yesterday and the benefits of gathering.
Yeah.
Anybody else have any? Yeah, Steve.
Well, if we could do some training when we are together in person in some field or another.
Like
So
what? Help me out.
Make it a longer meeting. One time I remember went out and looked. I can't remember exactly what it was. This was quite a few years ago now, but we went out to one of the eco transit buses and we're looking at something on the bus, and I don't even remember what, but we did not just sit in the meeting room the whole time. And as long as we're traveling to get there, we can stretch the meeting out a little bit and have some sort of training or a guest speaker who could, teach us about things or something like that.
I love it. And you're right. That goes right along with that more conversation, right? You have a thing, you have a place, you gather. I think we might have done that. I remember doing that out at the gypsum facility, but I was just thinking about, I know Vail Transit, you guys probably all do now, has like security cameras that they actually have wired right to the 911 call center. And, so just like seeing a bus, talking to a driver, like, okay, what are your challenges like? And then having people at your level hear that and sort of interact and talk could be, it sounds like, well, there's not much to talk about, but I'll bet there'd be a good half hour, an hour of things just from standing there, right?
Yeah. And one of the challenges we have is getting people who have mobility issues to actually go and ride public transit, because it can be scary, it can be difficult. And that might be something we could tackle with actually go for a ride. You could set it up, have it a person who actually maybe knows how to ride the transit, or maybe a brand new person. And maybe we could actually go do a ride with them and see what it was like for them to get from their house to the grocery store or a doctor's appointment.
I love it. And maybe I can get Jerry Seinfeld to do that with them in one of those fancy cars. I don't know if you've ever watched his Comedians in Cars thing, but yeah, no, that's really good. I actually, as you're saying that, I was thinking might be interesting to get a small focus group or panel of people who are users to like come to a meeting. And, I don't think it'd be that hard to say, Carly, can you come up with, 3 people from Eagle County to who would come to a meeting for food, and share with us what's working and what doesn't work about their experience, right? That could be interesting. Any other ideas about, what RTC has done or what they could do? Mandy, you just popped on there. Does that mean you have a thought?
No, I was blowing my nose.
Sorry.
Not like everybody wants to see that.
Yeah. So I feel like you covered the essence of what the strengths are there and why we gather. But okay, let's go ahead and shoot and give Dana, while she's here, some weaknesses. What have
Actually, let me
Yeah,
just
go ahead,
throw
John.
one other potential strength. I think the panel discussion is really good. We've done some panel discussions here locally of why don't you ride the bus? And it was so educational to me as a transportation provider. The other thing that can be very beneficial is if you reach out to different vendors that maybe sell equipment or are consultants or other things like that. If you've got a larger group, sometimes they will appear, whereas us individually probably couldn't get the time of day from them. So when
You mean like a next bus vendor or somebody like that?
Exactly. When we were doing our GPS, and that was one of the programs we did kind of early on, GPS for paratransit vehicles as part of the RTCC, we were able to get the vendors to come out and talk to a larger group. And sometimes they even provided the food. So, it's a way to get access. And then we also chatted with other RTCCs around the country that have also invented the wheel. So we could just fine tune what they had done, let them deal with the invention.
That last one is an interesting one. A year or more ago, we had to do a review with Economic Development Administration for our Economic Development District. And the Denver office had us on a phone call. I'm like, you're doing your review. Like they paired us with another EDA that was in Missouri, rural Missouri. And so they had a series of questions we each had to answer and then talk amongst ourselves about like, well, really, that's how you do that? And you do this thing? And why do you do it that way? So it's like they sponsored a call between two. Like, I don't know there's any reason they paired it with. We were completely different from, our district was completely different from their district. But in a way, that was the genius of it is, so that's an interesting idea too. I can see Dana, her whizzing on that. One of the challenges I find with COG is I don't like the idea of staying in your lane because I'm not a stay in your lane kind of guy if you haven't figured that out. But I also don't like to duplicate things. So I'm always trying to people say, why don't you do more legislative advocacy at COG? And I say, well, the towns have CML. The counties have CCI. There's no reason for us to double what they're doing. You guys have CASTA, right? What is the reason to get together regionally here that doesn't happen at CASTA? I don't mean that to pick on CASTA. I'm like, what do we do differently here that is of value than, and maybe you could even name some other, what conferences should Dana be looking at, or what group should she be looking to? It's kind of a two-part question there.
Yeah, I'll throw in a plug for CASTA. I think one of the things that was really good earlier is the RTCC was actually the division, or the unit that was looked to as the gold standard for RTCCs in Colorado. And so I think there was a lot of really good things that came out of that, because legislation was looking at doing some things very differently. And for example, they wanted, and this was kind of a killer for our organization, being the RTCC, is they wanted to do it on a statewide basis. Well, the issues that we have in Northwest Colorado are very different than what they have out on the Southeastern Plains. And so I think it was really good to just have another advocacy group there to bounce some ideas off of, and then also get the legislature support to say, I don't think this would work. And so just, I think it's a good idea to be kind of a member and just go listen and hear what other people are doing. And
so let me
it's
ask,
kind of good to pat yourself on the back occasionally.
No, I love it. I'm sorry if I'm stepping on toes by being an active facilitator here, but so if we were to, like, the legislative, by the time the legislative session starts in December, those legislators each have their 5 bills all set, right? They already know what they're doing. But if we were to have a legislative, and invite our area key state legislators, and maybe a federal, I don't know, maybe a Bennett's office or something, and say, we have all the sort of transportation, mobility, transit center, transit providers at this meeting for 2 hours in wherever, and we've prepped them, and they want to talk to you about recent legislation that's occurred or things they'd like to see. Would you be able to fill up an hour or two of things to say to them? Would that be a fruitful thing? Or is that the kind of thing you're talking about? Or is that not what you're talking about? It sounds like there's advocacy where you like wait until, well, see what comes up. Let's meet as an RTCC. What's our position on that? And then comment, which is hard to do when you meet quarterly, right? Or what I thought I heard from you was preemptively, what do we want to see? We want to see funding for X, or we want to see that. Is that what I'm hearing, John?
Yeah, I view it as kind of a two-parter. One is that you break down the barriers and you build the bridges so that they know if they have kind of a question about this, is this an issue? They already have faces and names that they know to go to for advocacy. I have yet to find a politician, apologies to Steve. I haven't found too many politicians that can't fill an hour of speaking. And so, but I think that they also like to hear feedback, but also be able to talk about the successes that they've had. And a lot of times you're not looking at rewriting the legislation. You're just looking at maybe amending Part C to subpart B, and so I think that can be really, really advantageous to inviting them. And even though it kind of seems weird, I think they really appreciate being invited to these sorts of things.
I don't think it's weird at all. And you're right. And it's, especially if you tee it up for them and say, we've got constructive things to talk about, rather than a gripe session, right? Let's just circle around and shoot arrows at our legislator. But if you're like, yeah, we've got 3 things or 5 things that we'd really like to talk to you about, and we've got, you fill a room with 30 people or whatever who have, a similar interest. I think that gets a lot of attention from, I mean, a Dylan Roberts or Julie McCluskey, I know, to name a couple, would be, I think, delighted to hear that. And even in a Goose or Bennett's office, folks, Hickenlooper's office would be, probably interested. Is it more of a state or a federal, just generally speaking?
I would say starts with state. There are some federal battles that I think need to occur, especially with funding. But I would say that a lot of the assistance that we can get and the things that we can change and the help that we can get is kind of on a statewide basis.
Okay. I love it. So, I mean, we kind
I
of have
would ask what other people thought.
Yeah, we've gone from weaknesses, jumped right to opportunities. So you're kind of going right through the line here. So I don't know if you other opportunities.
Well, I'm just trying to envision this kind of to the legislator would be sort of a town hall meeting.
Yeah.
But maybe we could do it at a senior luncheon in Eagle, where there are people there. It would be a listening session where anybody could bring up any topic they want to talk about, but we would want to have it be more transit centric or mobility issues or aging issues. You could make it a little broader listening session where the people can talk to the legislators and talk to the RTCC members, and the legislators could give do some messaging and ask questions it'd be their sort of a town hall to them in a sense.
Well,
that could be very productive.
You're talking about something that comes up or has recently come up in my evaluations about like next steps. And I'm kind of like, we have so many stakeholders. You got 31 local governments. I tend to focus my, like, what can we do? And then here, like, what are the agencies that we represent or that, participate? But we don't often think, I mean, I think Vintage does with some of our senior services go right to citizens, but, an RTCC presence, that's just a good name recognition thing to do, right? If we want to have a connection, we've hosted this, we've brought them here, and maybe it's lunches with the public, but it transitions into a smaller meeting for an hour afterwards. That's maybe with a few leaders that, hey, we just heard a bunch of stuff from people, it peppered the conversation, but then let's meet with a legislator with like you all or something like that. I love it, Steve.
I like that. Yeah.
That sounds
maybe we could tie in the transfer. I can't remember what they're called now. The transportation the
TPR.
TPRs, yeah, TPRs. Maybe it could be tied into that, perhaps. I don't know anything about their meeting schedule or.
Well, I don't want to be the no person here, but the interesting thing about, I mean, you guys are providing a direct service to people. It's weird how people don't see roads as a direct service to them, but they don't. So it's really a step removed, wonky in a lot of ways. But the funding at TPRs is transit as well. So if it was something like what John had said about Jonathan, I don't know if you go by John, sorry, but getting the Mustang people up for a meeting up, a joint meeting between the Northwest TPR and the IM TPR that we host in Kremling, for God's sakes, why not? And say, let's have some people together and talk about, wow, if there was a little bus stop, I don't know if there's even any public land at that little Y intersection up there where you go to Walden or go to over Rabbit Ears past a Steamboat. Would people utilize that, right? We could host something like that. That could be really interesting. I know you're talking about Eagle County, you're kind of narrowing in, but to go to, there's an issue, right, Jonathan? Bring the right people to the table and maybe bring some public in. That's a big thing. Dana, I want you to do that in the next 3 weeks if you can get that organized. But I think it's good. What we're talking about is opportunities, and that's something that we can kind of aim towards, right, as we build RTCC back. I love your vision, Jonathan and Steve, about what it's been. Carly or Joy or Tracy or Mandy, Vivian, you have anything else about kind of opportunity, either backwards, what we've done well in the past, what we haven't done well, or some opportunities that you see for RTCC, any of you?
Personally, to be like super honest, I haven't found much benefit from joining these meetings. I joined just to kind of stay in the loop, but I
Yeah.
haven't felt like I have gained anything personally. I don't know if that's because I'm not like in transit on a daily basis. But I keep joining just to kind of hope that, maybe collaboration and talking about grant funding or getting the right people at the table to close some of our gaps will eventually pay off. So far not.
I appreciate your honesty with that. No, that's really
Yeah.
useful. And so let me just, you started to answer that. Let's flip that a little bit, and what would make it more fruitful to you? I think you started with that. Some more, you said you're hoping for collaboration, and when you say collaboration and grant funding, that's very general. What do you mean by that?
Right. So I guess I mean, like, are there opportunities for us to participate in additional grants that we could be looking at bringing in additional funding to our organizations to, I don't know what that would look like, help us have a little more skin in the game as far as like talking to RAFTA about closing that gap in the Mid Valley, or like I know Mandy and Dawn from RAFTA spent all last year creating like a whole strategic plan of them taking over our senior transportation in the Mid Valley, and then it like came to a screeching halt when they were like, oh, RAFTA is low on budget and drivers, and the board isn't even willing to entertain this plan at this moment. So things like that of like, I know we used to have someone from RAFTA on this call, like that would be super handy for them to be hearing this conversation today.
Yeah.
Or is there funding, and maybe it's going to change a little bit with our transit authority being formed over here in the Eagle River Valley, but like, do we have the right people on the call to really be making progress? And that's where I feel like we just haven't, as this group,
Yep.
I haven't noticed like progress in my area being made as a result of this group.
Yeah. No, I really appreciate that. So, and then maybe one of the weaknesses, I mean, it is what it is. I appreciate hearing that. And I have some of the same feelings about it. Dana's already heard from me sort of my hopes for sort of what this position can do. How would you, I mean, if we rely on these meetings being the thing, and all the good that the group does has to happen quarterly in a meeting, right? That is a sort of a strange structure, right? If Dana were to take it upon herself to, have lunch with Dawn and Mandy, or whatever form that takes, a Zoom call, and try to understand, for instance, where that was, and then maybe try to pull together some folks that connect that. We don't want to meddle, right, in things that aren't beyond what we want. I could say, hey, have her call 3 Garfield County commissioners and see what happens. But maybe that's a good idea. I don't know. Say, could we get the right Garfield County commissioner, the right Pitkin County commissioner, the right Eagle County commissioner to come to a meeting that we've just called a little meeting with a couple advocates to talk about what Mandy and Dawn have done? I'm just throwing that as an example. If RTCC were to be more assertive about like facilitating gathering like that, would that be a good role that you would see?
I think that would be super helpful. Yeah. So I think what we're also running into is we're not ever talking to the people that make those decisions. So for example, Mandy and Dawn did an immense amount of work, and then, it was like the RAFTA board members that weren't going to entertain it. So yes, do we need to figure out how to connect with them to understand the true needs? So yeah, maybe that is more of like a county by county, like advocacy within transportation role to help us, since that's something we can't obviously give a lot of our day-to-day time into.
Well, that's
yeah.
right. And so, I mean, it's an analog to what I was trying to explain to Dana about why we need an administrator for TPR, right? what percentage of your job is transportation, Carly and Mandy? Like 15%, maybe 10%?
Mandy's is probably more than mine
More.
because she has
More
such a,
percent.
she's really trying to fill all the gaps that occur over there. So,
Right.
and that shouldn't be like, right? Like that, in my opinion, is not the best use of her time. I'd rather her be meeting with community members and being at community functions about how to better serve our older adults, not talking about how to get them around, you know?
Right.
Since that isn't our main focus.
So if somebody like, and I don't know if Dana, this feels like something within her wheelhouse that she's comfortable doing or not. We're just talking, right, about what could happen. And it's 11:30, so I know we got to stop here real quick. But if she were to, because she is going to be full-time transportation, right, knowing that she's got kind of an arc of first things and next things, but we've talked a lot about what have we done for mobility, right? What have we done right in this area? So I think you're on target. If she were to do that and bring some people to the table and kind of be a person who like is persistent, right? In okay, when was the last time people talked about this? Who else do we need to get in the room? And do the same thing, Jonathan, for something like you were just talking about the sort of like Mustang thing. I'm just taking that as an example. And then, the thing you were talking about, Steve, about, I guess it's the same thing, the Pickens County bringing thing in, but have a couple, 3 major things. You couldn't do 20, right? If Dana were giving 20 initiatives to do that with, probably be too many balls to juggle. But if you guys sort of prioritized a little bit and said, yeah, these one or these 3 things would be great if the mobility manager for the region would just be the persistent person about it, right? Yeah.
Yeah, I think that would be hugely helpful. It's something we've never had before, so it would definitely be worth a try, I think.
Yeah, well, it's an opportunity. Susan was really focused on, frankly, on the call center and building it, which she did, and then we suddenly weren't doing it. And Charles had other focuses. This wasn't really he wasn't wired that way, but I think Dana is wired that way. I don't mind sending her off to go talk to, I don't think she has a problem talking to commissioners, right?
No, I feel very comfortable with that.
Let me throw out just a couple of things, because I think, Carly, what you brought up was really important. I would suggest reaching out to, kind of looking back historically at the roll call, and reaching out to the people who aren't attending and asking, why are you not attending? And I think it would be really interesting to hear back, because I think these are some really valid points. And then maybe, and I hate to add additional meetings, but maybe we do a once a year state of the RTCC meeting where we do invite, it's great to have Steve here, but invite his counterparts from the other places that are represented. And maybe that's somewhere, like the RAFTA board, our oversight is done by the city council, the TPRs, those people, to really sit down and say, okay, these are the worker bees and they want to tell you what's going on. And add that as kind of an additional once a year, so that sort of the other quarterly meetings, the worker bees who actually get stuff accomplished, can pass ideas back and forth, but have that meeting where you're able to sit there and go, hey, we put a ton of work into X, and if we could get help from Y, that would make this big difference. And have it's not just me talking to my city council, but they can hear that it's a lot of different agencies have the same issues, and some have made really great progress by doing something. Oh, you're muted.
Dana, do you want to have, thank you, John. Do you want to have last thoughts on this? I know you've been absorbing and taking all this in. Talay's been taking notes. I've been taking notes. I assume Dana's probably been. We've recorded this. I feel like this has been really valuable. And I know we're in kind of this like assess, reset mode. So I appreciate all of you who've been here. And I think I think this will be a touchstone meeting really for heading another direction based on what you've said and calling around. So that's definitely on Dana's to-do list. Dana, do you want to, and then Steve, how about that? Dana, do you have any closing thoughts about what you've heard and what you think? And then Steve, and then we do need to wrap up.
Yeah, thanks, John. This has been super helpful and makes me really excited to be able to help support you all. And I took a ton of notes. I have a ton of ideas. This is exactly what my skill set is connecting folks and getting stuff to happen. So yeah, I definitely want to play that role. And you all were kind of reading my mind as far as where I wanted this group to head. So yeah, really looking forward to continuing these conversations and kind of maybe making some mini plans with the 3 kind of core buckets that we've talked about with folks just today. So I'll start reaching out to you guys and just getting stuff on calendars and see how we can move forward.
Okay. Yeah. One thought I had is there are some different players here in our community who, for instance, Dave Peckler used to go to the RTCC meetings. He's no longer there. He's retired. He has Sam Moreno as his replacement. Well, Sam's probably never been invited to go to the RTCC meeting. So there are different people like that we need to reach out to and just get the connections. Look who's here.
Hey, Patty Clapper. Speaking of, well, I think one thing that Dana and I can do, circling back, is maybe structure a set of key questions that we ask each person that she's calling who was in the RTCC. One of which is, the last question is, who else should we be talking to? Who else should be participating? Or who else maybe doesn't need to be in the RTCC group, but would have some perspective or some good ideas, right? So
yeah.
Well, we'll pledge to you, to Carly, making meetings more meaningful in the future, right? And I love the
I
feedback.
wasn't meaning to be negative. I just
No,
was.
hey, no, do not
Because
apologize.
I haven't given up. I still have hope, but I just
You're
wanted
here.
to, since it's a new start with Dana, it's a fresh slate.
Hey, we need more of that. You did not have any vindictive bite or anger with that. You were very clear, and I really appreciate that. So yeah.
I love that too, Carly, and I'm really excited to be able to work with you and Mandy and come up with some solutions. It sounds like a lot of balls are in the air with that, and it's just a matter of reconnecting, and yeah, happy to play that part and see what can happen.
Thanks, everybody.
All right.
Thanks, everyone.
Thanks,
Thank
everyone.
you.
Thank
We'll see
you.
you all.
Later.
Everybody
Bye.
have a great holiday season coming up here.
All right, you too. Thanks.
Thanks, Steve.
Thanks, everybody. Bye.